Hello and welcome. This is video number 4 in a 9-part series about the post-World War II world. And the focus in this video is going to be on the emphasis on developing nuclear technology and also trying to keep tabs on what the other side was up to. So spying became a big thing. So let's get started. Now, probably one of the biggest threats that would really develop during the early Cold War years and continue to develop as the Cold War years went on was nuclear technology. As you know, the United States had developed the atomic bomb during World War II and, in fact, detonated a couple of bombs on the cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan. So that technology existed. Now, at that point, the United States was the only country in the world that had nuclear technology. And we would continue trying to develop it and advance it. The Soviet Union, not liking the fact that we had that kind of capability and they didn't, would work at it themselves. And in a very short amount of time, they too would have nuclear weapons. And then what you end up seeing happen as we get to the 1950s and moving forward is the nuclear bombs that were being developed just simply getting more and more powerful. Atom bombs are what existed in the 1940s. By 1952, they had hydrogen bombs, which, to not go into detail on that, just was a different way that energy was released that made them much more powerful. So if you imagine how devastating the two bombs were that were used in 1945 against Japan, just know that not even a decade later, many more nuclear weapons existed, and many of them were significantly more powerful than those early ones. Now, with this emphasis on trying to build better technology and more powerful weapons than the other side, we see a phase that's often referred to as Brinkmanship unfold. This ended up really becoming a concept or a way of thinking about things in the early 1950s with Secretary of State Dulles, who had the perspective that one of the best ways to avoid war was to have so much capability to wage it that nobody would come after you, basically. And what this led to was, particularly between the United States and the Soviet Union, not only kind of talking big and trying to show capabilities, but also a lot of weapons stockpiling. And so, especially getting into the 1950s and then early 60s, and you'll see this on the video if you watch it, you'll see that there was a lot of testing going on and a lot of work being done to develop nuclear weapons and put them together in a way that they could be deployed really anywhere in the world or get to anywhere in the world very efficiently. And especially getting into the 1960s with nuclear capabilities where they were at. For people who were thinking about it, it was really pretty scary because both the United States and the Soviet Union had the capacity to blow up the world many times over again. But that was all part of a perspective known as Brinkmanship. Now, there were a lot of scary things going on during the Cold War years. If you want to try to shift some of that effort into a more positive light, one thing that did happen, certainly in the United States, as well as the Soviet Union and other places as well, is in the interest of trying to outdo one another, there was a lot of emphasis put on science and education to try to train people and develop people's capabilities and creativity to be able to come up with bigger, better, faster, everything. And so as far as educational opportunities were concerned, getting into the 50s and 60s, a lot of resources, a lot of effort put in to boosting those educational opportunities. A big area where we see this is what becomes the space race. ICBMs, or intercontinental ballistic missiles, were a technology that was being developed. The Soviets actually led the way in that technology. The United States would catch up very quickly. And one of the things, especially getting into the 60s, that was emphasized for the United States with programs like NASA, the space program, was to be a leader, to not be in second place, not second to the Soviets or anyone, but to be a leader. And through that, a lot of effort was put into science and education training to be able to do that. Now, another area that would prove to be important and also created the potential for conflict was spying. One of the things that was true is that both sides wanted to outdo one another, and one of the things you would need to do with that is to know what each other was up to. And spying was a way to do that. Now, both sides would claim that they weren't spying, but both sides certainly knew that they were. One area that created a very tense situation around spying was with the U-2 spy plane, which was a high altitude flying plane that we had that could take very good pictures from extremely high up in the air. I'm trying to remember, I think about 60,000 feet, so extremely high altitude pictures. Now, even though each side knew that spying took place, one of the areas that had actually been discussed and the Soviets said no deal on was aerial reconnaissance. Despite the fact that it was understood that that wouldn't take place, we engaged in it anyway, and there happened to be a point where one of our spy planes actually was shot down by the Soviet Union. And not surprisingly, this led to a lot of tension. And this is an area where I've got another short video that will speak to that situation. It was an interesting situation, one where fortunately didn't result in war, but it was just another event in this first decade or two after World War II where with both sides trying to outdo one another, they were taking steps that brought each other very close to war from time to time. Obviously, we're still here today. There wasn't a World War III during the Cold War years, and so spoiler alert, big war never did happen between the Soviet Union and the United States, but there were certainly opportunities for that to happen. Thankfully, it didn't. Well, as scary as that stretch of time was, where so much energy was put into developing nuclear weapons to try to outdo the other side, the real positive from all that is that those weapons didn't end up being used. And if you're unsure about whether that's true or not, just keep in mind that we're here and I'm making this video and you're watching it. That's a good sign that nuclear destruction never ended up actually happening. Thanks for watching.